Hi listeners and light workers. Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated hosted a press conference in Washington, D.C., with former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani, and Trump campaign senior legal advisor Jenna Ellis, on November 19. Representing President Donald Trump in his appeal of election results, Rudy Giuliani was also joined at the podium of this press conference by his fellow attorney, Sidney Powell, to announce they have mounting evidence that proves the 2020 election was rigged. The promise had been made in the recent past that Trump's legal team would release the Kraken on voter fraud in the 2020 election. In their opening statement to their case, Trump's lawyers claimed that the vote irregularities amounted to a national conspiracy to remove Trump from office. They have accumulated evidence in the form of sworn affidavits from witnesses, and what they described as very alarming, as well as sufficient data, to expose the fact that a plan to steal the election and give the victory to Joe Biden was hatched, masterminded, and organized, at national level, and started out as a national conspiracy. An important part of the evidence that will be taken to the court relates to the Dominion and Smartmatic software and vote counting machines, as they possess certain characteristic features that permit an easy switch from one candidate to another, via the Internet. They are owned by a Venezuelan company that is in partnership with George Soros, the biggest donor to the Democrat Party and Antifa, as well as the Extinction Movement. The lawyers outlined parts of the cases that they are planning to fight in states across the country, because they have discovered a repetition of the same pattern of fraud in each state which can only be explained by a bigger plan. They argued that 10 or 12 individual Democrat bosses could not have had the same idea. Giuliani stated,
"They did the same thing in exactly the same way in 10 Democrat-controlled cities. They picked the places where they could get away with it. This has been a massive attack on the integrity of the voting system of the greatest democracy on earth. The people who did this have committed one of the worst crimes that I've ever seen."
They said that the real Kraken will be released in a court of law. It is related to a massive globalist level of corruption. They also blamed the latter for weaponizing the media and asked the reporters to be unbiased, and cover this fairly because truth matters. Now I would like to give you the clips for the prophecies that I have received from the archangels Gabriel and Uriel, as well as from my ascended twin flame Andri, who works with Archangel Michael. The telepathic communications were received, respectively on October 2nd and November 8th. The text repeating extracts from the prophecies published on video on October 3rd was dated November 2nd, and the message that will be given last was received on November 8th. It is a particularly exceptional telepathic transmission. I now have them in full, under the same roof, so to speak, as follows. Hi listeners and light workers. Today I have received a dictation from Archangel Gabriel, as well as one from Archangel Uriel, and these are statements word for word, as usual, by telepathic communication. Before getting a dictation from an archangel, an ascended being, or a being of higher dimensions, I have to do some prayers and decrees. It has been explained why in some previous videos, so I won't go into that now, and I think you will find the invocation for a reversing of the tide interesting. It will be given at the end of this video. I must tell you that the archangels sometimes use terms that are technical, and the meaning of which I am not sure about. And today Archangel Gabriel started his dictation with the words,
"In the nomenclature of the United States of America."
Excuse my ignorance, but I was not sure I even had the spelling right and that I had heard properly at first, despite the fact I did study something about the Constitution at university years ago. I had to consult dictionary.com, but for a minute I doubted myself and thought I'd better make sure such a word relates to the Constitution. It could have been French for all I knew. Well, The definition of nomenclature is that it is a noun related to the system of fundamental principles according to which a nation, state, corporation, or the like, is governed. It's also the document embodying these principles, and relates to the Constitution of the United States. In addition, the first paragraph of this dictation makes a statement that I cannot verify, but as I have checked the term nomenclature, I trust I have heard it correctly. With regard to Archangel Gabriel's dictation, it is short, and the reason for giving it was that yesterday I was watching a video with an interview of Dr. Shiva by Gary Franke, on the subject of fraud being carried out in elections. Dr. V. A. Shiva Ayadurai is a scientist, engineer, and PhD in biological engineering, who holds 4 degrees from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was a candidate for the U.S. Senate of the state of Massachusetts and has been locked out of his Twitter account. I will give you a clip from that interview so you have a better idea of what I am referring to.
Crisis that he personally uncovered as a candidate for the United States Senate from the state of Massachusetts. Now, the grand threat here is that when any one of us, a hardworking person, a working class patriot, comes from the bottom up, the deep state can literally flip a switch and manipulate the outcome of the election. Interesting. Yeah.
You see, they don't want it to be close because they could have a revolution on their hands in this country. What they are going to try to do, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is to try to make it a big difference.
So what follows is Archangel Gabriel's dictation.
Yes, it is Archangel Gabriel. Dear Christine, dear ones, in the nomenclature of the United States of America there is the dispensation of a document that specifies there should not be any infraction to the safe routine in regards the way the counting of the votes is carried out. The reason that this fraud is allowed is that the infiltration of darkness has reached a proportion beyond repair. The omission to execute the program in a safe way has culminated with an impossible situation, and it is that the dark ones of the deep state have found a way to take back, or restart, their domination. Your experience with words is deficient in this area, but it is a way to show you the origin of the message is from beyond what you can conceive.
In the next sentence I was hearing,
My dear Christine, this is Archangel Uriel now. I would like to explain what our friend, Archangel Gabriel, has said to you. There is a war taking place for us in heaven and for all of you on your earth, call it a plane or a realm. It is the final battle that has been waited for by many, an Armageddon of the psyche, but it goes beyond that with the strategies of darkness that you have attempted to encapsulate in a few words and the invocation before your decree. You have said that the problem is to do with the ability that the dark force, you also call deep state, has to manipulate the data of any election so the votes are counted in decimals, which means, in the end, there is not one vote per person. Also, they are able to fool the voters because they think that everybody else must have been voting for the candidate that gets selected in this fraud that they are able to carry out, and so, in reality everybody thinks a senator has been elected by the people when the system permits there to be more votes than the actual amount of people who voted. Yes, that is what Dr. Shiva has exposed. The other problem that you are asking us to take control over, and to reverse the tide, is the fact that the president has been tested and found to be positive. The amount of time you have heard it said he will be in isolation is 10 days. So certain researchers have given this a significance of 10 days of biblical darkness. You could call them that indeed. As Jennifer Snell said, Saint Germain is working through Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, to restore order. This same message is in your early videos published in 2016. The plan is unfolding despite the way it looks at the moment. There is no danger for the president as far as his health is concerned. Soon, you will discover that he has had but mild symptoms of the disease. You have done a lot of research and understand the situation very well with regard to the deception that those dark forces are able to carry out. So you will compose a new decree and ask us to take control of that situation, which you will define, and ask us to reverse the tide of that onslaught that is a real abomination in the way it has designs of conquest and the intention to aggressively acquire power. There will be a twist in this affair which will be revealed in the turns of events very soon. Our America will not be ruled by a regime of darkness, and will not experience a dictatorship. Its constitution is designed to avoid that, and the criminals who are attempting a coup and collapse in a unilateral way into total corruption will not gain any victory of any sort to that effect. The stars and the firmament are in certain configurations in 2020 that can expose the extent to which a manipulation for power is at work. But they are indicating conflicts in the psyche of mankind, not causing them. At the same time, the forces involved are used in the material world as they somehow open portals to the choices that become the metal or the testing for souls in incarnation. But it is the light of God that souls use for right and wrong. They use or misuse the light that descends from the I Am Presence in all the choices they make. In history there is more misuse, of course, than righteous use of the life given to man, but it is balanced by the souls of light, how they live, and serve, and through their prayers which give us the possibility for interventions. This month of October and even November is a very auspicious time. And that means it is a very bad time in a sense, is that you will see an upheaval that is expected to be as significant and dramatic as the apocalyptic events of the book of Revelation, and at the same time it will result with a positive outcome, because it will be the beginning of the end of evil. We will take control of the situation and reverse the tide of these abominations that you will name in the new decree that you have already conceived in your mind, following the pattern of the reverse the tide invocation of the Summit Lighthouse. We have already gone into action following a dispensation received just after you recited your long invocation and decrees before I started this dictation. Many light-bearers are joining and uniting in this activity, all around the world, in their own way, and we, the archangels, and all sections of heaven, respond as we are given authority to intervene by this method. And the wisdom of the Almighty surpasses the systems that the Dark Ones possess in this battle. The protection will be greater than the attacks, and it is necessary that the overcoming is carried out from the place of incarnation, where there is the entanglement of the psyche and the belief in those false concepts, histories, and narratives that are only used and invented by an activity of the carnal mind to control minds for power. So, you need liberation from this bondage, but do not forget, dear ones, that in the age of Aquarius is the liberating force of change. Although I cannot disclose much more, I would like to say, dear ones, that we will have a victory at the end of this year.
This is a PS or postscriptum that I am writing on November 8th, after having watched this new channel Ascension video before it is made public on BitChute. This is because I have received a message from my ascended twin flame, Andri, by telepathic communication, as usual. This is a dictation word for word, as follows.
We want your attention. This is Andre, speaking for the Galactic Federation of Light. We would like to say that Donald Trump will be president of the USA in a few weeks, depending on the good running of the lawsuits, in which we will make sure the opponent is exposed in full magnitude, and we know it is dependent on the divine plan, but we will ensure this is carried forward in full vigor to disclose the atrocities committed by the criminals for a number of years and decades. This which will unfold in courts is a most important part of the process to eliminate evil on earth, to expose those agents of the dark forces of paramount importance. So do not worry and be patient. And if possible even enjoy the process, as it is what you have been waiting for many years, since you have become aware of the situation of what we might call slavery of the human race under an establishment, the deep state, and the mechanism that is continually at work to engage more and more in diminishing your human rights so they can control you for their own agenda, and this involves the control of minds with an exacerbating political propaganda and indoctrination, as well as disinformation which has become abominable and intolerable. Life must be restored to a level of normality, at least as it was during a short period of time, after World War II and before the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. You do not know what normal life is, as it was intended to be in the first place, before this world's platform was taken over and controlled by what we might term the evil pyramid of control. It also is all to do with the reintegration of evil spirits, called Nephilim, in the cycles of life, as they pre-existed the recreation of Earth from Tiamat in an ancient time. They had to be allowed to live again in order to be given a chance to turn to the light and evolve, but they are the origin of evil. We have a very unusual cosmic situation on our hands. However, we have reached the time when this cannot continue. They have had their chance, but have persisted in their wrongdoing. They will not be allowed to take part in the journey that you, the light workers and light bearers, the true mankind, whatever your affiliations or denominations, whatever your culture, race or nations, will be undertaking. You are soon to step upon the path of a new beginning as the configurations of the age of Aquarius are doing their work. They are releasing the souls of mankind from their bondage and entanglements of mind and of the psyche, including from those false perceptions which have been imposed on people by media strategies. We will protect and lead you out of this nightmare, this maze of deception, and show you the way to a path of evolution of love, truth and happiness. End of message. This was Andre.
What follows is a new message for the world from a heavenly emissary speaking for the collective of the celestial realms, upon which the saints and ascended beings reside, and there are many planes beyond those celestial realms.
So, Christine, we confirm that you are our messenger and will get a stupefying message. We are the Ascended Masters and would like to say, today, that we will enter a new era as soon as we obtain victory in the court sessions and the Supreme Court. We should understand that the evil is rampant in all the areas of the world that are governed by the remnants of these spirits that are demonic in nature, since the birth of this world has progressed after thousands of years. The nature of these entities is that they belong with another creation a long time before your own souls were created as vehicles for the descent into the material world of the higher consciousness of the archangels, also called Kumaras, in the ancient East. Homosexual is the nature of these demonic entities because they were not created in the image of God that contains a dual polarity, all the way through to the highest plane. This Luciferian creation was designed in a remote, or primordial time, long before the spiritual authorities envisaged the creation of human man. You have been dwelling upon a higher plane of existence for millions of years as souls and incarnations of the Divine Self. Then you were brought down lower to the cosmic physical plane, but at a certain time in the past this was a higher position in relation to the dimensions you inhabit, and I am, or we are, speaking of the sum total of the mystical body that is a vehicle for the descent of higher consciousness into a pre-existing physical world, in order to lift it up, raise its vibrations, to a higher level, so that all of the material world returns to a higher form of substance. And so, you are living in a period of great events and catastrophes, as there is going on a final battle that will see the eradication of the last traces of these evil entities that have governed the world secretly for eons. It is a time of great disclosure because much has been hidden in terms of knowledge concerning the rule of those forces, and how they influenced and caused events to take place for centuries. In recent years they caused what you might call fake events, or false flag events, one after the other, so that these were superimposed over the karmic chain of action reactions that should normally have taken place if they were not present, as well as created an implementation of agendas for power and destruction. For now it is accurate, indeed, that their plan is one of obliteration of Western civilization in order to change everything and introduce new systems. Understand that their plan is to restructure all of the systems of the world and replace them. It is the systems that prevent them from exercising a greater control of your minds and lives that they want to replace in the process of a reset, and it is their new world order that they want to impose upon the lives and the entire world. It is a one world and supreme government they want to get underway. However, this is contradictory to the divine plan and will not be allowed. Their machines of world domination will come to an end as soon as the Supreme Court sessions have declared that there is enough evidence indicating a massive conspiracy has existed, and that these deep state globalists and political powers have sought to implement an agenda of fraud to gain power in the White House against the principles of the Constitution, and of a fair voting system designed by the Founding Fathers of the Republic of America for the people and human rights. This is the absolute core of the battle. It is the saving factor and at the same time, it is what they seek to destroy. It is the great safeguard put in place by the ascended masters working through the founding fathers in the 18th century. We are the authors of this tool of freedom and liberation that we placed in the hands of these forefathers of yours who stood on the side of law, justice and righteousness, and were highly inspired, but suspected from the knowledge of their scriptures that there would be such a time in the future when their descendants would need to rely on the rules of justice and laws designed by this document they signed in 1776. A great battle is taking place between light and dark, or good and evil, at the level of the psyche, as it is all to do with perceptions and beliefs. When creation distanced itself from the Creator in the primordial days of these demonic entities of Tiamat, mentioned in the Babylonian myth, they departed from truth and its perception. It is by this process that they created lower and lower manifestations of themselves. In other words, they were the creators of the planes of existence below the realm of light. You have recently witnessed an Armageddon of the psyche with the result of many divisions and riots, due to narratives in the media and reports that differ according to what the press perceives, or what the journalists are directed to report, or what allegiance they have, and it's all boiling down to a difference in views that exists between the political right and left. The right is adhering to the ancient rules inherited by the founding fathers. The left are controlled by the powers of darkness that seek to regain the power they lost when Donald Trump was elected. It was because of the overwhelming number of his followers and votes in his favor that the fraudulent system failed. But in 2016 it was because the agents of the dark were taken by surprise. In the 2020 elections the fraud failed because they had to make up for more votes for Trump than expected. Their machines were not designed to switch as many votes from Trump to Biden. The voting for Trump actually was so voluminous that they had to reboot the system by switching the machines off the internet in some states. They had to bring in more fraudulent ballots in the middle of the night, and this basically was letting the cat out with the pigeons, and is the trail that has led to an astounding evidence of conspiracy for the legal team of investigators and their attorney colleagues. This discovery consists in the fact that a secret rule of the world has been exercised for decades in the way that the dark force in question was able to, with the use of secret technologies that they invented, or got hold of, or back-engineered, as well as their constant advancement. They were able to control the presidents and administrations, except for some, in which case the latter were victims of plots of assassinations. Some among you have known for decades about the existence of a secret shadow world government, a force pulling the political strings, and even a control from the astral plane that pulls such strings of their agents, or puppets, in the physical realm, and some of you have known about their secret technology, a subject too vast to go into right now, but at least we must tell you that the objective of this technology is for control of minds, psychotronics, and for political power. They are obsessed with the idea of dominating this world and keep it in low vibrations, because what they fear most is the transcendence, not just of souls but of the entire material substance of the world. They are laggards and could not survive in the higher vibrations of a world of love and light. These agents are fundamentally psychopathic in their hate of God as well as of the creation He made in His own image. That is mankind and especially its spiritual presence, as the souls that are the mystical vehicle for the higher dimensions because of their connection with the heart of their Creator. That evil force is rebellious and adversarial to the Christos, or Word of the Bible, translated from the Greek term logos, the divine intelligence and mind that man can spiritually integrate, just as the Holy Spirit, because real human beings with that heart connection are holy grails for the divine light. With this power they can be resurrected from their physical condition full of disease, violence, hatred and death. That condition of mortality is a condemnation and judgment upon them, not from God or their Creator, but a transposition upon them by the deceptions, trickeries and manipulations of these rulers that have once again climbed the ladder of political power since the founding of certain agencies many decades ago. The plan now is to get that victory that Archangel Uriel so graciously prophesied for the end of this year in his October 3rd dictation. You are all praying in your own way all over the world and especially in English-speaking nations, in America, Britain, Australia and in Eastern countries. You are forming a web of light. The prayers are reinforcing the celestial protection given to these knights and ladies of the flame who fight the archangel's battle below. You will have an astounding amount of facts exposed during the next few weeks, and it is the disclosure that will open many eyes and heal the diversity and division in perceptions, worldviews, and that will lead to more political projects, and at the same time, a return to the ancient safer fundamental beliefs that originated from our higher celestial abodes, and were communicated in the same way as this message, or constituted a spiritual legacy preserved from Lemurian days, before the incarnation of the demonic entities had an impact upon civilization. We wish you to keep faith that victory is close, and you are going to turn the page astrologically to a totally new experience of life in the matter world without the presence of these nefarious powers that consistently engineered catastrophic events to undermine and cause a depreciation of life to get to the point of gaining a totalitarian rule of this world. What you will see unfold is the apocalyptic events prophesied long ago. The hand of God is overturning these powers of darkness, and you are entering an age of liberation and freedom when no stone will be left unturned to accomplish a purification, and you will roll up your sleeves because there is a lot to do, but the creation of civilization along the rules of a great ideal of which you have but legendary recollections, is going to be a wonderful experience. So we leave you with that thought, wishing you to stay protected in the light, peace and love of this message from an Ascended Masters Collective.